on ADBN television. Now, talking about the implication of what will happen with the retention of the MPR by CBN. One of the key issues that many people are talking about is that with this high interest rate that CBN have also maintained, even though since last year that's what the MPR have been 27.50%, and retaining the asymmetric corridor around MPR of 500 a minus 100 basis points, and retaining the cash reserve ratio at 50%, as well as retaining the liquidity ratio at 30%. The question boils down to how the economy will be able to manage this kind of high rate from the MPR. Although many also argue that this is not too high per se, but as the CBN has also make us to understand that this will help the economy to grow in a way. And for CBN, they said the decision mark a pause in a rate hike after 6 consecutive increase in 2024, meaning that CBN have raised interest rates 6 times under Cardoso, 6 good times since October 2023 when he took over the realms as the CBN governor. The committee of the MPR also noted that the stability in the foreign exchange market made them to also take this decision because there have been an improvement in external reserve and a gradual moderation in fuel price as key macroeconomic development is influencing the decision. Kudos to CBN for looking at that. Although many will still argue with them that even though we are saying there is key development, key improvement in the microeconomy, the cost of living is still very, very high. Although on the part of the CBN, they acknowledge that inflation will remain the concern of them majorly because without these inflationary issues that they have been talking about, they want to fight inflation with increasing MPR and MPC, increasing this rate. Now that the inflation have come down, definitely there will be argument on what are they increasing MPR for. Although others have also argued on the part that with this, the Nigerian economy will be good for it. But my analyst will be joining me shortly so that we can take a deeper look at some of these issues as raised by CBN, as well as what Nigerians are feeling in terms of the MPR coming up this level, 27.50%. Is it good? Is it a moderate one? Is it that significant or insignificant to the Nigerian economy going forward? But the key question is that many Nigerians are looking at economy that will be more buoyant, that will be more resilient, and they'll put food on Nigerians' table. And that is the bottom of our discussion today. And Steve Nwachukwu will be joining me, financial economist, as well as someone who understands how some of these policies of the economy work and work very well for the betterment of Nigeria. A very good day to you, Mr. Steve. Are you there?
Having me.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us this day, Mr. Steve. Now, the first question I will ask you is that although many of us have been expecting this particular piece of information from CBN, but what is your personal reaction as you saw that CBN is maintaining all parameters at this point in time?
Thank you again. Yes, it's expected. Like you said, a couple of us who perhaps think otherwise, the way and the manner the CBN MPC committee has been going in the last 12 calendar months of hiking the interest rate from somewhere around 18.75% when Cardoso took over to a current 27.5%. Yes, we thought it is wise also to hold and watch other macroeconomic variables that are coming from the fiscal policy decision making to see how they have rested and to also know if it's proper to start looking, reducing the interest rate because the interest rate actually exacerbating the cost of raising finance and cost of transaction or cost of doing business. So it's expected that they hold. And this hold also signifies the fact that, yes, CBN have run out of ideas, CBN have run out of options, and they have to hold and watch what will be the reflection of the MPS recent rebasing of our consumer price index and even the GDP. So I think it's a wise decision to hold and watch the ripple effect or the development that will happen the next couple of days or weeks and months, and to see also what the fiscal policy is doing to make sure that the cost of doing business, the cost of production, it is from the cost of energy to the cost of transportation, and even on the side of the CBN, even the cost of forex, because most often we tend to try to neglect the fact that the CBN also has a role. But CBN will tell you that, yes, my job is to manage the foreign reserve. My job is not to generate those reserves. So it's the physical side that will generate through the key agencies like NNPC, who handles the petroleum sector of our economy or handles the oil and gas, and be able to make some good proceeds to support the economy. Yes, it's expected that we have a hold, and the reasons are quite germane, and the reasons are supported by all available statistics that for sure we are still having a higher inflation number, we are still having a higher cost of living, a higher food inflation or high cost of food, and other variables around the cost of transportation, energy costs. Petroleum products are still selling above 900 or 950 in some filling station or in some geopolitical zones. So we need to start seeing those numbers reflecting, and we need to start seeing such policies of government that will address this very core issue, why CBN is expected at least reduce the NPR from somewhere around this 27.5%, maybe rest below 24%, and that will give the general economy a sigh of relief in the cost of finance.
Exactly. And I'm talking about a sign of relief. I know, Steve, you are very, very critical about the boy point that CBN normally bring out anytime they are pushing out this NPR rate. But this time around, a plus 500, a minus 100 basis points. What's your view about that? I know you're always very critical about their voting pattern. But this time around, a plus 500, a minus 100 basis points. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, that's okay. Well, one will also say, well, if you're looking at plus 500 and minus 100, that means that the 27.5%, which is the core interest rate, now there must be additional 500 for every single transaction, meaning it will be somewhere above 32.5% thereabout. So that's simply what it means. There is no interest rates that will be given to anybody by CBN or by any other financial institution below 32.5%. That's simply what it means. Having that asymmetric corridor of 500 plus 500 and minus 100. Is that simply what it means? That any single interest or any facility by CBN, by commercial bank, by merchant bank will not be anything less than 32.5%. Quite still high for an economy that is still fragile, economy that has a higher cost of living, a high cost of production. We need to see something below 30%. We need to see something even below 20%. It's no longer a dream now to talk of single digits. I think it's not in the dream of this very administration to have a single digit interest rate. So we are no longer talking about a single digit. We are talking something above or below 20%, at least to give the manufacturers and businesses a relief.
Now, very interesting. Now, let's now take a look at the reasons why CBN come and maintain their whatever they have done, particularly 27.50% they are talking about. They gave certain reasons. Let's take the reasons one after the other. Number one reason, they said they saw that there is moderation in fuel prices, and there have been a key improvement in some microeconomic aspect of the economy. Do you agree with them that there have been an improvement from what they have seen?
Let's just be honest. I know that CBN is an institution and is a very key institution of governments. And it composes a good, very intelligent people, intelligent Nigerians. And sometimes when you have decisions to make, you definitely will have to come up with reasons why you took your decision. The decisions or the outcome of your decision may not be germane enough, but you need to defend it. So for me, those very decisions or the reason for their decision sounds still like a rhetoric to me, in the sense that this is the same environment we have been operating. CBN and I knows too that as long as they keep hiking or having an interest rate of this very regime of 27.5%, the same means that we are exporting jobs. It's not competitive to obtain finances in the local market, and it's also exporting jobs. That's simply what it means. We are exporting jobs. We need to incentivize the system. Incentivizing the system means you need to give a lower interest rate regime. That's what we need. Yes, CBN complaints, has issues around the money in circulation. Recently or 2 days ago, yes, they also communicated to Nigerians and to some of us who analyze this data that we now have over 110 trillion money in circulation, and the cash equivalent is over 5 trillion. Remember, a couple of months ago, CBN had a drive to reduce the volume of money or currency in circulation by, encouraging the e-ticketing, e-payments, and the rest of them. So, and now we are having, what is his name? The former CBN, Godwin Emefiele, started that process. He was trying to drive down the money in circulation from 3.3 trillion to somewhere around 1.7, 1.8 trillion. But now we are having a higher number, and we are still having the volume of money in circulation above 110 trillion. So I think, yes, CBN may have good excuses to give why they have to hold, or why they have to come out with the decision they have now. But the truth remains that Nigerians should expect less from the CBN. The policies and programs that will address the current economic predicaments of Nigeria needs to come from a well-calculated, directed policies of the fiscal policy decisions. It's not from CBN. If we are talking about high cost of petroleum products, what has CBN to do with it? It has to do with a deliberate policy of government to reduce this very cost by incentivizing the system. What can you do to Dangote and other local or refineries, at least to lower their costs and make sure that this product is selling above 400, below 500 and 400 naira? These are policies from the fiscal. It cannot come from CBN. That's why I said I don't expect much from the Central Bank of Nigeria. If we want to deal with issues around agriculture or crop, we need to have a good dedicated policy from the Ministry of Agriculture, fertilizer, incentive for fertilizer, and helping farmers with farm input. You can subsidize, or you can incentivize this very system to make sure that artisanal farmers actually have some improved crop so that the yield can be better. And also making sure that you also return farmers to the ancestral home. What has CBN to do with that? It's still the fiscal policy decision through Ministry of Defense, making sure that this banditry, terrorism, and all of them that have been affecting farmers are dealt with. So that's why I say I have less expectation from CBN. Yes, it's expected also that CBN can manage whatever forests we have. From the sale proceed from the crude oil, we need the Ministry of Petroleum to ramp up production to somewhere above 2.5, 2.7 million cut-off oil thefts. These are fiscal policy decisions that will address this issue. They are not from the CBN. CBN, his job is to manage the outcomes of this very variable. Exactly. That was why CBN has to postpone their MPC so that they can get the data from the MPS so that they can see what those variables. The variables are the food inflation, the variables are the cost of transportation, so that they can have an input to it, so that they can tell us, yes, this is why we need to take this decision. So I think, like I said again, we should have less expectation from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Our hope should rest on the decks of the president and his managers.
Exactly. Talking about not having too much expectation from the CBN, but there's a particular one I need to look at and expect expectation from them. For instance, they also give a reason. They said the foreign exchange market has been improving, particularly the external reserve, and which also helped them to say, okay, let us hold on to the current parameter. Do you agree with them on that regard?
Well, external reserve improving is not the making of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Let's be honest. Central Bank of Nigeria does not have any source that they earn forests. Yes, in their daily management of some of these days, you can have some little earnings or whatever, but they are totally insignificant. The proceed is as a fallout of fiscal policy decision. What did the Federal Ministry of Trade, Commerce, and Industry do that empowered local manufacturers, that Nigerian consumes more of local products, that the foreign reserve will improve? If you have lesser importation, your reserve will improve. If you have some level of stability in your exchange market, and from the point of sales or export of crude oil, export of non-crude oil. Like recently, we saw an improvement from the report we received from the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, where they stated, yes, there is a lot of improvement in
non-oil sector.
Crude oil, yes. So these are the kind of policies or this kind of development we need to start seeing, and that will result in external reserve, having a better external reserve. Yes, CBN has a role to play. Their role is to manage it and make sure that whatever we receive are used effectively. Those who will come with dubious bills and requests, CBN should turn them down and make sure that the money are well used, and the manufacturer who need this forest receive it. Yes, they manage the forest, but basically they don't have any way or the other to contribute to the growth. Management of it can also result to a better growth. I agree to that fact.
Exactly.
Yes, CBN should continue to manage whatever is yielding this very proceeds to have a better reserve in days or months to come.
Now talking about CBN, another action which made them to get to this level of the decision they have taken is that they say they acknowledge that inflation will remain a concern for them, that they will not close their eyes to issue of inflation, even though the rebasing has come. The basing of the consumer price index that will revise the inflation rate to 24.48% from 34.80%. But analysts are like us, you and I, are now cautioning CBN that they must be very cautious in hiking MPR at this point in time, even though the basing have shown that inflation has come down. So it's like a temptation to CBN in case they want to cause more harm through the MPR rate. So do you also agree with experts that are saying that they must trade cautiously on this part this time around, because rebasing is tempting, and also they must be very, very careful in whatever position they want to take when it comes to rebasing of the economy through the inflation that we have seen so far?
For me, I think CBN have actually thrown all caution to the wind. If you have an MPR of 27.5%, in fact, you have passed the threshold. My threshold, I thought they couldn't have passed 20%. But I was shocked when I saw Cardoso move the MPR about 200 basis points and another 300 basis points consecutively. So I think for me, they have actually thrown all the caution to the wind. So there is nothing like conscious trading. No. 27.5% is one of the worst rates that we should actually have as a developing country, economy that is so fragile. You need something better than 27.5%. Like I keep cautioning CBN, stop chasing after this very hot money, these very portfolio investments that looks like an ashawo money that perhaps within a twinkling of eye, they have left the shores of Nigeria. So these are hot monies. They are not good for the economy. We need FDI, foreign direct investment, that will stay for decades, for years, not this very portfolio investment. Yes, it's expected to be in the same market, but not what CBN should be chasing after. We should be chasing with good fiscal policy, chasing after foreign direct investment in other sectors, not hot monies like foreign portfolio investment. So yes, CBN should be conscious of what decisions they take. For me, they've also exceeded the conscious level for me. 27.5% is one of the highest rates I have ever imagined our MPR would be. hiking it more, well, it's more like you are setting a death trap for manufacturers, because no manufacturer will survive in an interest rate regime above 40%. A good percentage of this very commercial bank in the microfinance banks are hitting 45%. A good number of commercial institutions are giving interest rate above 45%. Have in mind that we have the asymmetric corridor of 5 plus 500 and minus 100 plus 27.5, meaning that what CBN itself will lend is above 32.5. Imagine microfinance bank, when you approach them, or imagine commercial or merchant bank, they will be hitting above 40, 43, 45%, and it's not healthy for our manufacturers. It will continue to exacerbate this cost of production we are talking about, which is the resultant effect is a higher inflation number. So, of course, CBN have passed my conscious threshold. Even if they hit 27, 28, or 29%, far they have hit my conscious threshold. So anything else is not to be reducing. They need to continue to reduce. Anything below 22, 23 will be good for now, until we still start seeing the result effect of fiscal policies in the energy costs, in the agri sector, in the transportation sector. These are the things that need to augment what CBN needs to be doing the months ahead.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. But we still have another aspect of what CBN decision was based on, because they itemized some of the reasons why they have to stick to and retain the threshold or the parameter they took. For instance, they said they look at the foreign exchange market, particularly with the introduction of some platform initiative they brought in, electronic foreign exchange matching system, and the Nigerian foreign exchange code that are brought in, has helped them to stabilize the exchange rate, and that gives them the confidence to also come out with the retention. Do you agree? I see you shaking your head, but they're giving themselves a pat on the back for bringing.
These are rhetorics. These are administrative tools. In a system, we have this platform. In a system, we have these rules. The question of the code. Yes, code is to streamline, to make the process transparent, and the rest of them. So what has that to do with the MPR? It has nothing to do with the MPR decisions. So, like I said, they would definitely, these are technocrats, quite intelligent people. They would definitely come up with things that may suggest, yes, these are germane reasons why we have to hold. Like I said, CBN have run out of ideas. Whatever process that CBN have taken these days is as a result of the fact they have run out of ideas. They knew, and they knew for sure, that the worst they would do is to increase. They knew that. They knew for sure that the worst they can do again is to continue to hype. That's why they will hold. So it's expected of them, actually, if the decision by the 12-member or 13-member committee, I think it was a
anonymous decision
that all of them agree.
Yes.
What it simply means is that nobody is suggesting. There's not even a single vote. Let's increase. So it simply means that in the real sense of it, they actually voted for a drop. That's simply what it means. Nobody said, okay, let's increase by 25 basis points, or let's increase by 50 basis points, and they all voted to hold. It simply means they actually meant to reduce the interest rate. So they should go ahead and reduce it, because manufacturers are suffering, businesses are finding it difficult to survive. The 27.5% is displacing businesses, is displacing more Nigerians from their livelihood. So they should do the needful, reduce it, and put pressure to the fiscal authorities to make sure that they augment with good policy decisions that will reduce or that will support exports and have more yields from the forest, which will help us defend the naira and relatively make the exchange rate below the budget benchmark of 1,500. That is only when we start seeing the lasting solution or the lasting impact in our economy. And that's when you start seeing the organic reduction of our inflation number. Not what recently the MPS did. They actually used a base year that will favor, that will seem to suggest, yes, we have a lower inflation number, while in the real terms, no item have actually reflected in reduction of such about 1,000 basis points. So, like I said again, it's more like a white sepulchre. You make sure that you paint things look bright while Nigerians are still suffering. Prices of goods and services are still high, but you use a base year that is quite shorter, a base year of 2024. This is 2025, just about 1 year or 2 years. So why not use something that could accumulatively reflect what Nigerians have been passing through in the last 3, 4, 5 years? Yes, it's expected that you do the rebasing after 5 years. It's favorable, but those of us who understand, yes, that this is more, like I said, a white sepulchre, more like you are trying to paint something that is bad look good, from 34.8% to 24.4%. It simply means that you perhaps think you wish that the numbers will come down, but in reality, the numbers are still where they are. Just the point is that most Nigerians will not understand the difference, that the base year is what makes the difference. You are using 2024, while before now we had 2009. I think that was the last time. Yes, 2000. Yes, 2009. That was the last time the CPI was rebased. So it's just a question of figure, manipulating the numbers in the sense. But yes, it's justifiable that you need to rebase. But in the real sense, in the real terms, what has happened to those prices of goods and services remain what they have been even in the last 2-3 weeks. Nothing has changed. We need to start seeing organic reduction in the inflation number, not reduction that has a nominal changes. Nominal in the sense that you just had from 34.8 to 24.48%. We need to start seeing the real things happening to those goods and services that are kept in those shelves, in those supermarkets, in those markets. We need to start seeing that inflation have dropped as a result. We are now buying petroleum products or fuel or PMS at maybe somewhere around 600, 500. That's what we need to start seeing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Now, the CBN also acknowledged the fact that under the Yemi Cardoso led, there have been an improvement in market transparency and liquidity around the exchange market, particularly the CBN and the Bureau de Change. Do you agree with them on that regard?
Yes, of course. I think we have seen less activities of the Bureau de Change, and you know for sure that Bureau de Change at a point in time, I describe the Bureau de Change as the most sustainable source of exchange or source of forex, in the sense that you walk down to a Bureau de Change, whatever size of dollar you need, you get it. But if you go to any of the official exchange window, from the commercial bank to the CBN, you find that it will take you months, even weeks, before you can access forex. So I think the CBN have perhaps sanitized that system. The Bureau de Change is no longer, being manipulative as it were. Perhaps CBN is becoming more transparent in the process of allocation or treatment of requests of such natures for forex. Manufacturers can now access the CBN and be reliable, hopeful that in the next 2-3 weeks, this request will be honored. Unlike before, you can stay for 6 months, 1 year, requesting for forex to buy one item or the other, buy one raw material or equipment or the other. In next 6 months to 1 year, you will not get such forex from the official exchange window. But you walk down to a Bureau de Change, you quickly will get it, because some characters that works with CBN are involved in round tripping, in round tripping of our forex. They will make some preferential allotment to those individuals who have no need for this very forex. Perhaps individuals that will end up selling it to the Bureau de Change in the market. So I think for sure, yes, there is some level of sanity in that very process that CBN have introduced. And with this very introduction of the code, it will also further sanitize the official players like the commercial banks and other money agents or more international transfer money agents that CBN will engage in such activities. So yes, there should be some level of sanity, and we are quite saying it. What we need a situation when a manufacturer will need $10,000 and he will be rest assured that in the next 1 month or 2 months maximum, I will get this $10,000 once the process is transparent.
Exactly.
Thank
you very much. Even Malam Gwadabe, the chairman of Bureau Chair Association of Nigeria, on my show, I see some days back, also acknowledged that they have been transparent and liquidity has been flowing, that it wasn't like before again. But the next MPC meeting is on May 19th and 20th. May 19th is a bit far from here if you look at it from the calendar, but maybe less than 2-3 months away from now. May 19th and 20th is when they will be meeting again. They'll be deciding on what to do. So I want us to begin to project for them and advise them, because I know someone somewhere is watching this program for them, or they themselves are watching it. So what will be your advice to them for May 19th and 20th going forward?
Well, the May 19th and 20th also suggests the fact that CBN is running out of ideas. If they actually have something to offer, they will just put it in April. They will I think, no, they have, the next is, they should put it within April, maximum. But they choose to May because they think that they don't have much to offer. But because there are a required number of MPC meetings for the year, they just needed to cover the calendar. Not really they knew they have a lot to offer to the system. Yes, like I said again, you asked to make some projections or suggestive numbers to CBN. The truth remains that the interest rate regime is high. Having an MPR at 27.5% is high. CBN should do all its best to lower it below 25%. If it's possible, they should knock up 250 basis points. But I know their posture, they will not do that. But they should start reducing these numbers. The CRR, that is the cash reserve ratio, at 50% is moderate, in the sense that the volume of money in circulation is well above 110 trillion. So if we have a cash reserve ratio, yes, it's actually choking the banks to operate. But because there is a volume of money that is so sufficient to still operate even above 60% cash reserve ratio. For those of us analysts who think that 50% is quite high, no, consider it. Place the cash reserve ratio of 50% side by side the volume of money in circulation. So it still means that even at 70%, the banks will still have enough to operate with, because the money in circulation continues to grow from 107 to 110 trillion. So yes, you may still retain, they may still retain the cash reserve ratio at 50%. Then the liquidity ratio is still okay, moderate to be at that 30%, or they may lower it maybe to 27.5%, given the fact that yes, the banks are recapitalized and the process of recapitalization is ongoing. Is hopeful, and most of them who have gone to the public to pick foreign fresh cash, the fact a good number of them were successful. About 80% of the commercial banks have successfully raised these funds for recapitalization, is expected by March 2026. So I think we need to start seeing a dovish posture from the CBN. The hawkish nature they have has long affected the system. They need to start reducing these numbers so that Nigerians and the business community will have a relief. Yes, CBN has little or much to contribute, but they need to push these numbers so that it can compare the fiscal authorities to actually address the issues that they needed to address. The Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the Ministry of Budget, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs needs to be working together where that they need technological transfer from the point of foreign nations we need some level of bilaterals from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to get these things achieved. Where you also needed to support farmers, the Ministry of Agriculture can empower farmers through the development banks like Bank of Agriculture or Bank of Industry. We need to start seeing these development banks work. CBN needs to start working with them so that they can actually address this issue. Like I said again, CBN needs to reduce these numbers.
So, I mean, I'm so impressed with your submission. Very brilliant, very intelligent, and I think that they are listening to us, and they will definitely get some of those advice that you are giving them. I can't thank you enough. Thank you for coming on the show today. We are so pleased to have you. Thank you so much, Stephen Nwachukwu. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I hope next time we'll call you, you'll still be here for us to analyze some of these issues. All right, thank you so much. That has been Stephen Nwachukwu, a financial and economic analyst who have helped us to understand the implication of CBN monetary policy retention. They have retained the MPR threshold, 27.50% for interest rate, 50% for cash reserve ratios, and 30% for liquidity ratio. This has been wonderful by CBN. According to them, these are actions taken as a result of the rebasing of the consumer price index that have shown that inflation in Nigeria